It's been a long time coming, but Hyundai's answer to the Toyota Prius is finally here. Rumors were coming out of Korea as early as 2010 that Hyundai intended to take on the Prius. The Ioniq now, in many ways, matches the Prius in core metrics. It matches it in the thermal efficiency of the engine. It matches it in the fuel economy. It actually beats it. It matches it in the coefficient of drag. It slightly beats it out in the size of the interior. It just does everything that the Prius did, and it's actually the first viable alternative. You may recall that Honda's Insight was a wannabe Prius. They actually, the second generation of the Insight actually looks kind of like a wannabe clone of a Prius, but that mild hybrid system never could match the Prius and never did overtake it in a sales race. Hyundai, however, has truly done what Toyota has and matched it on all important scores. At the same time, Hyundai has also created a car that looks far more mainstream for those who appreciate that. Plus, it's given it a dual clutch 6-speed automatic transmission that is manually shiftable with a sport mode that lets the car basically be a super green eco car, just like a Prius, but it doesn't shout, "Look at me, I'm green." It's just basically an eco car almost in disguise. And that is its goal. And basically, it has to overcome the Prius reputation. And when you think hybrid, you think Prius, like you think Kleenex. Hyundai would like to change that with this car, and it wants to do it on merit. In order to achieve the Ioniq Hybrid's goal of beating the Prius, Hyundai wanted it to, of course, surpass its EPA mile per gallon score. This outdoes the 52 mile per gallon rating of most Prius trims and the 56 miles per gallon of the Prius Eco version. The Ioniq is propelled by a 1.6 liter Kappa series Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine. The engine has astonishing thermal efficiency of 40%, which is just on par and equal to what comes with the Prius and Honda's new Earth Dreams engine. Horsepower from the engine alone is 104 horsepower, pounds-feet is 109 pounds-feet. That is combined through the system control computer to merge with a thin 43 horsepower electric motor that provides 125 pounds-feet of torque. As per hybrid practice, the numbers don't add up because they make their peaks at different spots. Hyundai figures the system total power is 139 horsepower. That's good enough to make the vehicle that weighs somewhere around 3,000 to 3,100 pounds, depending on trim, scoot from 0 to 60 in the 9-second range, depending on situation. It actually has a sport mode, which allows a greater amount of power to be fed and make the vehicle feel actually more engaging and more powerful off the line. The vehicle does feel a scooch quicker than a Toyota Prius, which is not saying a whole lot. The Toyota Prius is not known for its astonishing acceleration with its 121 horsepower total, but the vehicle, otherwise being a Prius competitor, does match it in the thermal efficiency and the fuel economy, and manages to pull off more power from slightly less displacement. It's a 1.6 versus 1.8 in the Toyota. Hyundai managed to put its 1.56 kilowatt hour lithium polymer battery underneath the rear seats, so that it's freed up all the cargo space that can normally be used up by a battery occupying the cargo area. As such, it has 26.5 cubic feet, which is a couple more feet than the Prius, and it's really actually a relatively spacious car. You can easily swallow up the suitcase. The vehicle does not have a spare tire, but it does have enough room back there and underneath the floor. If you were to purchase an aftermarket space saver spare, it could probably squeeze one in. It also has split 60/40 rear seat backs, which work relatively easily. And you get this little privacy cover, which I actually just did for the first time. It's really intuitively obvious how it works. The rear seat has 35.7 inches of rear leg room. I'm 6 feet tall with a 34-inch inseam, and with the front passenger seat in a medium position on its track, I have ample room. The roof line, however, is a little bit on the low side, and even with my relatively short torso as things go, if I were to lean all the way back, I am bumping my head into the ceiling, which if you want higher ceiling height, then you better go to something like a Kia Niro, which is a sister car to this vehicle using the same powertrain. Won't get as much miles per gallon, but it is more spacious. Otherwise, very roomy. No armrest in the blue edition here. Comfortable quality of material and seats. Plastic materials here and there, but some soft touch on the armrest and on the door sill near the window. The vehicle is, ergonomics are fine for me with a tilt telescoping steering wheel. It's got the nearly customary 7-inch touchscreen in this base blue model. Soft touch materials where you are going to likely have contact with the doors, and a decent padded armrest, good grip on the steering wheel. This is the base model, no moonroof, no sunroof, manually adjusted seats. The higher level SEL Unlimited trims come with power seats, and they also have you can also get an 8-inch touchscreen. You can also get things like advanced safety features like lane departure warning and adaptive cruise control. This vehicle, as equipped, does come with Apple CarPlay, which is really nice. Android Auto is also supported with these vehicles. Has an interesting eco power meter. Some people think this is a convenience feature. It's also probably a liability coverage issue. Hyundai a few years back was caught fudging, or they paid some class action lawsuits on their EPA scores for some of their hybrids. One of the statements that came out of that after they profusely apologized for this indiscretion of theirs was they said that people drive aggressively, and they sort of half said that people don't even realize they drive aggressively. So as such, this vehicle comes equipped with a little meter that tells you whether you're driving economically or normally or aggressive. And they'll call you for aggressive. According to this right now, our driving style is 33% economical, 43% normal, and 24% aggressive. So if you had any doubt, that's sort of a driving coach to allow you to fine-tune how you're really using and optimizing the system. The fuel economy on this vehicle was rated at 58 miles per gallon, which is astonishing. It's basically the most fuel-efficient non-plug-in car sold in the United States today, and that's on the more aggressive EPA cycle. Several years back, this thing would have been rated in the 60s, just because the cycle was more liberal. The EPA is very realistic, and 58 is about doable. That said, when I drop this thing into sport mode, it's a night and day difference. It feeds more power to it, and so far the last couple drives I've gotten in sport mode, using it kind of sporty, I've gotten middle 30s. So that's a wide discrepancy of middle 30s, 35, 30, 33 miles per gallon. I suppose you could go higher, but that's what we got when we really wanted to use the vehicle in sport mode as a sports car. The vehicle has a lithium polymer battery in the back, and it's able to drive in EV mode up to 75 miles per hour. And of course, the system control computer attempts to conserve energy wherever possible, and assuming battery power, it will slip into EV mode at its own discretion. It's just controlling the whole thing for you per normal hybrid practice. Acceleration is acceptable, quicker than the Prius, feels more punchy off the line. Sight lines are all very good on the vehicle, at least in the front radius. Out the back, it has, I wish they hadn't copied the Prius, frankly, with the split rear window. It has a bit of a spoiler back there and a solid bar bisecting the upper and lower planes of the window. Otherwise, the A-pillars are narrow. I can see all the way around, and it's very clear and very easy to see around, and it doesn't feel confining at all. The comfort of the seats also, by the way, I like better than what comes with the Toyota. The Toyota Prius, for some reason, has a headrest that cants your head forward. This vehicle is more ergonomically satisfactory for driving, which is the purpose of the car. One thing that's really nice about this vehicle being so quote-unquote mainstream is it really deserves to be cross-shopped against cars that are in the same segment and price category. What you should do is look at the total value of the total cost of ownership and factor all factors that go into that equation and include also your fuel costs. According to the US EPA, this vehicle compared to an average vehicle, and an average is only really about 26 miles per gallon. According to an average vehicle, this vehicle saves you $4,000 in 5 years. $4,000 in 5 years works out to about $800 per year, or $67 per month in fuel savings compared to your average car. Now, compared to a vehicle that may be made in the 30s, we haven't done the math for that, but if you save 20 miles per gallon compared to whatever you're shopping, the payback period for a car like this that only costs $23,000 is something to consider. So, that's something to be considered, that not only is this a Prius competitor, quote unquote, this is actually a viable alternative to a lot of vehicles that are in the same price segment but may only get much less fuel mileage than this does. Given that the drive experience is so much like a conventional car, I don't see really where the drawback or the trade-off is, or the negative trade-off is. The Ioniq is selling about 1 for every 4 Prius as it gets to be known, and obviously it has its work cut out for it, meaning that it's not as well known, and it's a new product. And the Prius has been on the market, in the world market, for 20 years, and in the United States for 17. The Prius is now in its 4th generation. Some people would like to say that it's just because of fuel prices, however, that the Prius is not selling as well. We'd beg to differ, because it's down by more than 40% year over year early in its model cycle, and therefore it should be selling near record highs. Its peak year a few years back was 140,000 sales. This year it'll be lucky to do 70,000. It's at 51,000 through September. It's down while the rest of the hybrid market is up. So there's more competition, granted, but other hybrid cars are selling relatively better year over year, while the Prius, all new, is down something like 40%. With normal styling and off-the-charts efficiency, Hyundai's Ioniq is the best anti-Prius yet. It's actually so good that it competes well against conventional cars, and for those who have been thinking about a hybrid but sitting on the sidelines, this one's definitely worth a test drive and a closer look.